Hello, I'm Britton Clennett, and welcome to China Insight, where we discuss the latest issues affecting this rapidly changing country. Well, it's been some 3 decades since China's opening up reforms turned the nation into the world's factory and an economic powerhouse. But after more than 30 years of development, the economy is slowing down as the nation prepares to transition to a model based on more sustainable growth, one based on domestic consumption and services. Well, to help speed up that change, China's government has launched a new reform measure, a series of free trade zones across the nation. Well, these zones are now 1 year old this month. So how have they fared? To shed some light on the implications of these new free trade zones, current affairs commentator Gregory Tsang is joining me in the studio today. Welcome to the program. Look, these free trade zones can be kind of hard to grapple with, hard to understand. Could you define what a free trade zone really is?
Let's look at the 3 keywords: free, trade, and zone. Free means less burdensome, more open, more simplified, more pleasant. That means the practices, arrangement in this area would carry that characteristics. Secondly, trade is a setup to promote trade, to promote economic development. So that's the sole purposes of having this zone set up. Zone, it means in a designated area. It's not everywhere. It's some place selected. So the combination of that is to say, in this particular area, we have measures to take, good ones, good practice to implement to promote the trade and exchange.
Well, China Insight reporter Joey Catanzaro travelled to Xiamen to find out more about these new free trade zones. Let's take a look.
The sun is gradually setting on China's cheap manufacturing-based economy. But policymakers are hoping this is the dawn of a new economic era, where growth is driven more sustainably by services and domestic consumption. This is Xiamen, a city by the sea in southeastern Fujian province, and one of China's most popular holiday destinations. It's also become a regional linchpin, and the next step in a new plan to transform China's economy.
This is part of the new Fujian Free Trade Zone, where that plan to transform China's economy is being put into action. It offers businesses a range of incentives and is designed to act like a magnet for foreign investment. It's also an economic laboratory where China's government is trialling reforms that may be rolled out across much of the nation.
It's hardly a blue sky plan. China opened its first free trade zone in Shanghai back in 2013, an experiment designed to give the economy a lift and test free market reforms like liberalised interest rates and relaxed capital controls. The goal is to create an economic and legal framework that gradually brings these pockets of China in line with the global free market, opening up a range of sectors to foreign investment that were virtually closed, like banking. By 2015, positive early signs in Shanghai paved the way for 3 new pilot zones in Tianjin, Guangdong, and here in Fujian. Each zone has a slightly different focus based on its geography. The zone in Fujian aims to unlock trade opportunities between the Chinese mainland and nearby Taiwan.
我们总的面积是43.78平方公里，那包括了2个园区。我们最大的特色就是对台，因为厦门自贸区是因台而设，因此我们的主要就重点在侧重，就是在发展两岸的经贸交流往来。
Xiamen's port is the 8th largest in China and the 17th largest in the world. Some 200 million tonnes of cargo cross these docks annually. It's one of the major gateways to the new free trade zone, and local officials are banking on it and a new international airport for the region, boosting trade even further. The new zones come as China's economy enters uncertain waters. GDP growth has sunk to its lowest levels in 25 years. But in Xiamen, the cargo and promising results are rolling in. In just 11 months of operation, it's clocked 4.42 billion yuan in imports and about 6 billion in exports.
The concept of a free trade zone can be a little bit difficult to understand. It's not necessarily one big area with a wall around it, and it doesn't necessarily call for a lot of new construction. One easy way to visualize it is to imagine taking existing areas of a city and drawing circles around them. Then imagine that inside those circles, the normal rules and regulations don't apply, but instead have been replaced by regulations and rules more favourable to business. In Xiamen, this is one of those areas, and it makes up part of the new free trade zone.
About 600 of the roughly 11,000 companies that have invested here are from overseas. A closer look shows state-owned conglomerates like Shengyu Group see this as the biggest opportunity since the opening up reforms of the 80s.
我们希望把这个厦门和台湾作为两个重要的节点，那么通过这个台湾这个节点呢，我们把全球的商品呢通过厦门到全国，同时呢，我们也希望通过厦门这个节点，把我们大陆的商品通过台湾的这个节点呢到全球去。所以呢，我们的目标呢叫立足两岸，联通全球。
And that connectivity is already beginning to blossom.
This fruit was picked in Taiwan yesterday. It's arrived here at the port in Xiamen today. Now, because of the streamlined customs and quarantine procedures here in the free trade zone, means that this is on sale in the streets of Xiamen less than 24 hours after it arrives.
About half of the overseas companies that have set up shop in the new zone are Taiwanese, accounting for almost 4 billion yuan of new investment here. Kevin Chow owns and runs one of them, importing organic food from Taiwan to feed the appetite of the tens of millions of online consumers driving China's booming e-commerce market. His is a relatively new operation, but he's worked on the Chinese mainland for years. He says the red tape common in regulation-heavy China is absent from the zone, and it only took 6 weeks to register his business as opposed to the 12 months it could have taken elsewhere. Local officials have been helpful, but with everything so new, Kevin says there's still some confusion about certain policies and how to access benefits.
Kevin, what are some of the policies in the new free trade zone that have benefited your business?
I have to go to many different departments to set up my company, for example. But now, the one window policy allow me to set up a company in 2 weeks, in 3 days. And it is true, it is done. So things are just becoming easier. And I understand the free trade zone is one experiment that is trying to reduce all that steps and procedures.
Kevin's assessment of the zone so far is generally positive. A one-window policy means that instead of multiple trips to different departments, paperwork is handled at a one-stop shop. Along with reduced or zero tariffs on certain goods, it's a reform that Kevin says is working well in action.
To acquire this food distribution license in the past was much more difficult, needed a lot of investment and time, at least 1 year. That's what everybody else told me. However, since the starting of the free trade zone policy, we were able to acquire our food distribution license in about 1.5 months.
And it's proving to be a similar story for many new companies across the zone.
三证合一就是，在咱们自贸区内，以前由工商部门办的营业执照，质监部门办的组织机构代码证跟税务部门办的税务证，现在都统一为统一信用代码。
Critics of the pilot zone in Shanghai say some reforms have not gone far enough, and there's confusion over what companies are able to do and who can access incentives. Many wonder whether the same will be true of the new zones.
The Shanghai Free Trade Zone was the first, and the Chinese government has since rolled out these free trade zones across a number of different areas in China. Do you think that maybe they've learnt some lessons from what was done in Shanghai and perhaps it's been implemented better here in Xiamen?
I think so. The starting up was on a good footing. I'm sure Xiamen is trying to do things a little differently and more suitable for Fujian and Xiamen area. Because of that, they cannot do exactly the same what's being done in Shanghai. They have to create new opportunities, especially Fujian is an opportunity aiming with Taiwanese investors and Taiwanese young investors in particular.
According to the latest figures provided by officials, the Fujian zone has already attracted more than $51 billion of investment, more than $7 billion of that figure from overseas.
Kevin is part of a new wave of Taiwanese investors that have been drawn to Xiamen by the free trade zone. In fact, he thought the business environment here was so promising, he bought an apartment locally, uprooted his family in Taiwan and moved them here to Xiamen. This is the new family home. Hello. 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 Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, Joey.
Hi.
Hello. Hey guys, give me a high five. High five. High five. Hi, nice to see you again. Nice to see you again, Kevin.
See you again.
Thank you. So this is the.
Over there is the Xiamen Island, and we can see that is the ferry port is over there.
Kevin, why did you decide to move your family here?
Weather here in Taiwan, the food, the dialect itself are very similar. And when we came to Fujian, when I arrived here, I think it's comfortable.
Fujian is not playing around in its efforts to make Xiamen attractive and is currently exploring an arrangement which would allow Taiwan-registered vehicles on its roads. In 2014, even before the establishment of the new zone, the number of Taiwanese businesses setting up in Xiamen saw year-on-year growth of 75%. And despite being dogged by the spectre of a slowing economy, some of Xiamen's newest residents are optimistic.
Tell me, what are some of the things you like about Xiamen?
My friend, my classmates.
Compared with Taiwan, you like it better here?
Yeah,
Why is that?
because homework and school and the teacher.
More fun?
More fun. So you're saying you have less homework here?
Yes.
Oh, that's an advantage.
And Taipei is everything is very easy because Taipei is very small. Yeah. And here is everything needs learn more and challenging more. I think it's good for the children in the future.
The couple's Xiamen office is located in an industrial park where Taiwanese and mainland businesses from a range of industries have based themselves. The common factor, both see opportunity in each other and the zone.
我来自台湾台南，大陆这边的市场比较大，所以我们选择落地在厦门，然后把整个资源慢慢的从越南还有台湾拉到厦门来。
我们希望跟台湾青年呢一起合作，把我们这个技术呢超过国外，打造全球市场。
The relative peace and quiet of Xiamen's recreational areas belies the rapid change and explosive economic growth this seaside city and the nation have witnessed in the past 3 decades. Many see the new zone as the natural next step forward from the opening up reforms of the 80s, when the new special economic zones created overnight megacities like Shenzhen and made China the world's manufacturing hub and a global economic powerhouse.
How are the new free trade zones, like the one here in Xiamen, different from the special economic development zones that were rolled out in places like Shenzhen in the 1980s?
特区的这块政策啊，应该它更多的考虑服务于区域经济和当地的这些产业政策的这个发展，从这个角度考虑的比较多。所以呢，它有几个特点。 比如说，它会提供政策上的优惠，像土地的优惠、税收的优惠、扶持上的优惠， 同时呢，它会根据行业和企业的不同，采取针对性的措施。而在自贸区的这个设立上呢，我们强调的是负面清单的管理，我们强调的是大小企业平等一致，更多的是通过开放、通过效率、通过简化我们现有的程序，去帮助企业提升它的效率，降低它的成本，更多的对接国际市场。
The zones boast what's called a negative list, unique in regulated China. Instead of telling companies what they can do, it tells them what they can't do, and the list of no's keeps shrinking. In Xiamen FTZ, reform is on the agenda.
In my opinion, the free trade zone is something like the special economic zones 30 years ago, which was adopted in the coastal areas of China, and it's a very pilot special area for China's economic to grow, and it is also very important for our reform and opening up to the outside world. As you know now, China's economy is growing slowly, but I think through the pilot free trade zone, we think we can have adapt to the international laws and international practice and make our companies more competitive.
It's not just Taiwanese companies investing here. This is Daniel Bergholm, Xiamen plant manager for Danish medical device manufacturer Ambu. At a time when many businesses are concerned about the rising cost of doing business in China, Ambu is bucking the trend. They've invested heavily in robotics and automation here to cut down on labour costs, and have even recently moved part of their manufacturing operation from the US here to Xiamen. Daniel says the new free trade zone is a big part of why the company is confident about the future of their operations here. Ambu is exactly the kind of high-tech manufacturing company the zone aims to attract in order to help China with its economic transition. Ambu provides employment opportunities and skills transference. In return, the company benefits from incentives like lower tariffs, less red tape and relaxed currency regulations.
Daniel, I believe your company is the biggest manufacturing company inside the free trade zone.
That's absolutely correct. We are the biggest manufacturing company here in the free trade zone in Xiamen. We have more than 700 employees, and actually also compared to Ambu Group, we are the biggest site.
Ambu has seen their customs clearance time reduced from 3 days to 1. There's a tax-back concession once goods have been exported, and their exports are on the up. A decade ago, they shipped out 2 to 3 containers of product per week. Now it's 15 to 20. And when a new production line comes online soon, it will be 20 to 25 containers per week. Daniel says the early signs suggest the zone will be beneficial to Ambu's business.
There are more reforms and incentives on the way. Apparently it's still early days. How consultative have the local government and the free trade officials been in terms of listening, talking to you about the sorts of things that might be coming in the future?
I believe we can here mention that the local authorities have been quite consultative. They have been open-minded. They have really listened to inputs from not only Ambu but also other companies in the free trade zone. Instead of just presenting a new policy or guidelines, directives or regulations, they are actually trying to make sure that the new updated procedures will benefit not only the companies but also the local authorities. So I see this as a win-win situation.
While Ambu's business is taking flight in Xiamen, Daniel says the increasingly international city has a lot to offer for families, and he should know. He brought his wife and 2 boys with him from Denmark.
We have different relationships with people from all over the world, Australia, US, UK. Around the lake, it's also a lot of opportunities for people to be active, to run and exercise. There are some gyms, also outdoor gyms, and some nice areas for kids and leisure time.
But Daniel says it's not just expats enjoying the good life in Xiamen. In this city, with its ever-changing skyline, he believes the expanding cafe and bar strips are a weather vane for the rise of China's middle class, the consumer market that will carry reforms pioneered by the free trade zones.
There's been a lot of talk about China and its development, a rising middle class, rising wages. Have you seen any evidence of that whilst you've been here?
I think I can say yes, I have seen good examples of that. When we go out for restaurants or go out for dinner, we see young couples dressed up with nice expensive clothes. They drive nice expensive cars, go to restaurants and have nice meals. And I think also this is one of the very clear signals to show that the middle class is also increasing.
China is changing, and policymakers hope this and proposed new zones will change it further. But it's still early days.
We have received many people from the government asking us how we want them to do it, things better, easier for us, etc., etc. I think they are putting efforts in there, and these incentives was designed particularly for this arrangement, but it is not yet being finalized.
So as our reporter Joey Catanzaro brought up, people are making parallels between, the special economic development zones of the 1980s pioneered by Deng Xiaoping and these new free trade zones. What kind of impact did the special economic development zones have back then?
Well, let me describe briefly the strength of this particular setup nowadays. It was mentioned in the presentation, the interview in the past, the three keywords, SOE. It's not state-owned enterprises, but something else. S means to the administration part is simplicity. Everything is simplified, easy to get through. O is openness. There's no hidden agenda. You can see the procedure quite apparently. And then, of course, E is efficiency and effectiveness. That's coming from administrative point of view. On the other side, for the investors, for those who have landed themselves in these zones, they enjoy three other things. S means satisfied with everything happened, and O means optimistic. Today's fine, tomorrow's even better, and E is excited. So, for example, this Xiamen zone has many attractions. It's not just only provide a good location for investors to make money, but also it has a very attractive, effective living conditions altogether. For example, for education, for recreation, for restaurant, and so on. So that's the key. If you provide a location for people to come, you have to take care of all needs, not just financially, but also socially and otherwise. So Xiamen FTZ serve primary purpose to attract investors coming from Taiwan across the Taiwan Strait, also international investors. The one in Tianjin, for example, can attract people coming from Japan and Republic of Korea. The one in Shanghai already established its roots 3 years ago. It started in 2013. The one in Shenzhen and other locations may attract investors coming from Asian countries. So.
But of course, you're talking about the new economic zones. I just want to, the new free trade zones. I want to know how they compare to the 1980s special economic zones. In your opinion,
as mentioned in the program, the special economic zones primarily to benefit the local government, the local people, to have employment problems solved, to have goods shipped into the inland easily. But now this is international. This is exchange, import and export. The reason, for example, to have this free trade zone located on the coast is to be able to take advantage of air freight, airplane transportation and land transportation and so on. But again, as we know, this free trade zone practice is one of the many things that has to be done in China to really improve the economy. You cannot rely on one solution to get job done. For instance, we have to improve the efficiency of SOEs. They are not doing a good job. We have to provide real support, financial otherwise, to the private-owned enterprises. We have to follow through the instructions of Li Keqiang, 简政放权, to simplify the administrative procedures, to open up the things to make it easier for people to do business. So it's a combination of everything. For example, another thing to be done is to suppress corruption. Corruption has eaten up resources. So this is a good start, but it's just the beginning. It's not the end of it at all.
Okay, so do you expect these new free trade zones to have a similar impact to the 1980s special economic development zones?
Even more so.
Even more so. In what way?
Because now China is much powerful position than ever before. You know, it's not China 30 years ago.
Yeah.
China has the financial resources, has international reputation, has good connection with other nations, have AIIB, have this One Belt, One Road. So China is ready to go. So this practice in existence is one of many things to be done to promote the final objective.
Right.
That is to bring economic prosperity to China, to make the social life more easier, to accomplish so-called 小康社会. That is a modest economic condition in China in the years to come.
I want to gaze into the crystal ball with you a little bit more after the break. We're going to take a very short break, but stay with us. Welcome back to China Insight. Well, what do China's free trade zones mean for the country's economy? That's the question I'm exploring with my guest current affairs commentator, Gregory Tsang. Well, China Insight took to the streets to ask people living in free trade zones how it's affected their livelihood. Let's take a look.
For professional experts like yourself, does the new free trade zone mean more career opportunities, higher wages, a better standard of living?
Yes, for sure. A lot of international companies, they go here, and also a lot of big companies, they want to start a new business overseas. So it was going to create a lot of job opportunities for a lot of local persons here.
I used to be a journalist. Now in FTZ, I'm in charge of the media relation and publicity.
My job is doing the promoting investment in free trade zone.
There are many import goods stores in FTZ, and the parallel automobile import is available.
The free trade zone is trying to build an open environment for everyone.
When the Chinese economy is a little growing in a lower space compared with the older 8% growth rate. Because of this free trade zone, we will have more investments.
It does seem like there are a lot of benefits to living within, and working inside these free trade zones. I want you to imagine China 10 years, in 10 years' time. Is China one big free trade zone?
Not necessarily, but I do believe things will change to the better. For example, these free zones, you have good business going on, good recreation facilities, education, schools, and so on. I think that benefit should be spread elsewhere. As to what extent, it depends.
And what kind of role do you think these free trade zones will have, as China faces, a declining birth rate, an aging population?
I think the slowdown is temporary because just like any other practice, for example, the stock market and so on, up and down, even if you come to the bottom of the valley, if the country can work together as a team, the government policy is there, implementation is strong, people will follow, things will change to the better.
Thank you very much for coming on the program, Gregory Tsang, as always. That's all we have time for today. If you have any comments or questions, please email us at chinainsight@cctv.com, or you can reach out to us on Facebook, Twitter, or Weibo. And we'll see you next time for more stories and discussion on China out of China.